The crystal towers of Nexus Prime stretched into the purple sky like giant fingers reaching for the stars. Inside the largest tower, 12 alien races sat around a massive circular table that glowed with soft blue light. These were the rulers of the galaxy, and they called themselves the Galactic Council. Zethkar stood at the center of the room. His tall gray body moved with slow grace as his forearms gestured toward the hologram floating above the table. The image showed a small, blue planet spinning slowly in the darkness of space. "Council members," Zethkar said in his deep, rumbling voice. "We have a problem." The other aliens leaned forward to look at the planet. Some had multiple eyes, others had scales or metal parts attached to their bodies. They had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, and they thought they knew everything about every world in space. "This is Earth," Zethkar continued. "The creatures living there call themselves humans. Our spy ships have been watching them for 50 of their years." A creature made of living crystal spoke next. Her voice sounded like music played on glass bells. "What makes these humans special? They look weak and small." Zethkar waved one of his arms and the hologram changed. Now it showed images of human cities, human wars, and human machines. "They are dangerous. In just 100 years, they went from riding animals to flying in space. They have nuclear weapons. They fight wars that kill millions of their own kind." The aliens around the table made sounds of disgust and fear. They had seen many species grow and change, but never this fast and never with such violence. "Show them the worst part," said a robot-like being with glowing red eyes. The hologram changed again. This time it showed human spaceships leaving Earth's solar system. The ships were small and crude, but they were moving toward other stars. "They are spreading," Zethkar said. "Soon they will find other worlds. Soon they will meet other species. When they do, they will bring their wars and violence with them." The council members talked among themselves in worried voices. They spoke different languages, but the computers in the room translated everything instantly. "We must stop them," said the crystal being. "We cannot let them destroy the peace we have built." "But how?" asked another alien, this one covered in thick fur. "They have not asked to join us. They do not even know we exist." Zethkar smiled, showing teeth like black daggers. "We will make them an offer they cannot refuse. We will give them a choice: submit to our control or be destroyed." The robot being's eyes glowed brighter. "What kind of control?" "Complete control," Zethkar replied. "We will take their weapons. We will change their bodies so they are not so violent. We will move them to farm worlds where they can grow food for the galaxy. They will be safe, fed, and peaceful." "And if they say no?" the furry alien asked. "Then we will show them what happens to species that threaten galactic peace." The vote was quick and unanimous. All 12 races agreed. The humans would submit, or die. Far away, on the blue planet called Earth, Commander Jake Morrison sat in his office deep underground. The room was filled with computers and screens showing information from all over the world. Jake was in charge of Earth's defense systems, though most people did not know such systems existed. A red light began flashing on one of the screens. Jake pressed a button, and a technician's voice filled the room. "Commander, we're getting something weird. It's a message from space, but it's not from any of our ships." "Put it on the main screen," Jake said. The largest screen in the room lit up, showing the face of Zethkar. The alien's forearms moved as he spoke in perfect English. "People of Earth," Zethkar said. "I am Zethkar, Prime of the Galactic Council. We have been watching your species for many years. You have proven yourselves to be violent and dangerous." Jake felt his blood turn cold. First contact with aliens, and they were already making threats. "We offer you a choice," the alien continued. "Submit to our protection, and you will live. You will give us all your weapons. You will allow us to change your bodies to make you more peaceful. You will move to worlds where you can farm and live simple lives under our care." The alien's image changed, replaced by pictures of beautiful green worlds with small villages and peaceful farms. "You have 30 of your days to decide," Zethkar said. If you refuse our generous offer, you will be eliminated as a threat to galactic peace. The screen went dark for a moment, then showed something that made Jake's heart stop. 3 large asteroids in the outer solar system suddenly exploded into dust. The destruction happened in complete silence with no visible weapons or ships nearby. This is what happens to those who oppose the Galactic Council, Zethkar's voice said over the images. Choose wisely. The message ended, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. Within minutes, Jake's phone was ringing. Presidents, prime ministers, and military leaders from around the world all wanted to know the same thing. Was this real? The answer came from the space telescopes. The 3 asteroids were gone, turned to dust by weapons that Earth scientists could not understand or detect. The aliens were real, they were powerful, and they wanted to control humanity. Jake knew that most people would panic when they learned the truth. Some would want to surrender immediately. Others would want to fight a hopeless war against enemies they could not defeat. But Jake also knew something that the aliens did not. Humanity had been preparing for this day for longer than anyone realized. The question was not whether Earth would fight or surrender. The question was whether the aliens were ready to learn what humans really were when they were pushed to the edge. The clock was ticking. 30 days to save the human race. Captain Lisa Chen stood on the bridge of the frontier's edge, watching the stars through the main window. Her ship was the first human vessel to travel this far from Earth, carrying what everyone thought was humanity's surrender. Captain, called her communications officer, we're getting a response from the neutral station. They'll allow us to dock. Lisa nodded. The neutral station was run by a species called the traders, aliens who sold goods and information to anyone with something valuable to offer. It was the perfect place for humanity to deliver their message of surrender to the Galactic Council. But Lisa knew the truth. The documents in her ship's safe were not surrender papers. They were carefully written lies, designed to make the aliens think humanity was weak and scared. Take us in slowly, Lisa ordered. Make sure their sensors get a good look at our ship. The Frontier's edge was designed to look primitive and harmless. Its hull was made of simple steel instead of advanced materials. Its engines were loud and inefficient on purpose. Every system was built to seem like the work of a species that barely knew how to travel between stars. As the ship docked, Lisa thought about the real preparations happening back home. While she was playing the part of a defeated diplomat, the rest of humanity was getting ready for war. Admiral Rick Stone floated in zero gravity, watching the construction outside his command station. Around him, hundreds of asteroids moved through space like a slow, deadly dance. Mining ships crawled over their surfaces, cutting away rock and metal. To the alien spy ships watching from a distance, it looked like simple resource gathering. The humans were expanding their space colonies, building bigger cities, growing more food. It was exactly what a species would do if they planned to surrender and become farmers for the galaxy. But Rick knew better. Each mining ship was actually a weapons platform in disguise. Every asteroid being mined was being turned into a fortress. The mining equipment could become powerful guns with the flip of a switch. How many more do we need? Asked Colonel Betty Adams, Rick's second in command. At least 200 more platforms, Rick replied, still watching the construction. The aliens think we're building farms in space. Let them keep thinking that. Betty smiled. The spy ships haven't gotten suspicious, and not yet. As far as they can tell, we're just scared humans trying to build enough food production to feed the galaxy's new farm workers. What the aliens could not see was the truth hidden inside each asteroid. Every mining tunnel led to weapon storage areas. Every equipment bay was actually a launch tube for missiles. The humans were not just mining rocks. They were building the largest hidden military base in the galaxy. Dr. Amy Rodriguez worked in a laboratory that did not officially exist. It was built inside one of Saturn's moons, hidden so deep that no alien sensor could detect it. Around her, teams of scientists studied pieces of alien technology taken from the destroyed asteroids. The energy signature is unlike anything we've seen, Amy said to her assistant, Dr. Pete Martinez. Their weapons don't use heat or radiation. They seem to break apart matter at the molecular level. Pete looked at the readings on his computer screen. Can we defend against it? Maybe, Amy said. but not the way they expect us to. The fragments of alien weapon energy had taught them something important. The Galactic Council's technology was advanced, but it was also predictable. Every weapon, every tool, every system was built the same way by every species in the Council. That was their weakness. They all thought alike, used the same methods, followed the same patterns. They could not imagine technology that worked differently from their own. "Show me the prototype again," Amy said. Pete activated a small device on the lab table. For a moment it seemed to disappear, becoming invisible to both their eyes and every sensor in the room. Then it reappeared, solid and real. "It's not a shield," Pete explained. "It's a phase shifter. Instead of blocking their weapons, it makes our ships exist slightly outside normal spacetime. Their weapons can't hit what isn't completely there." Amy smiled. The aliens thought they knew everything about technology and warfare. They were about to learn how wrong they were. On Earth, President Carlos Martinez stood before cameras that would broadcast his speech to the entire galaxy. Behind him stood flags from every nation on Earth, showing that humanity was united in this moment. "People of the galaxy," he said in a calm, steady voice, "we have received the message from the Galactic Council. We understand your concerns about our species." In living rooms around the world, families watched their president surrender their freedom. Many people cried. Some shouted at their televisions. Others sat in stunned silence. But in secret military bases, soldiers and officers smiled. They knew what Martinez was really doing. "We propose a gradual transition," the president continued. 50 years to slowly integrate into galactic society. We will share our technology with the Council. We will allow volunteers from our population to undergo the peaceful modifications you suggest. We will relocate to the agricultural worlds you have prepared for us. To the aliens listening, it sounded like complete surrender. To the humans who knew the plan, every word had a double meaning. Share our technology meant giving the aliens fake information about human capabilities. Peaceful modifications meant learning how alien biology worked so they could develop better weapons. Relocate to agricultural worlds meant spreading human military forces throughout the galaxy. The speech ended with Martinez bowing his head, the picture of a defeated leader accepting the inevitable. Within hours, Captain Lisa Chen received new orders at the neutral station. The Galactic Council was pleased with humanity's surrender. They were sending a fleet to accept the formal surrender and begin the protection of Earth. Lisa sent back a message filled with gratitude and relief. Humanity was so thankful for the Council's mercy. They would prepare a proper welcome for the arrival of the Galactic Fleet. As she sent the message, Lisa thought about the real preparations happening throughout the solar system. The aliens thought they were coming to accept a surrender. They were actually flying into the largest trap in galactic history. Admiral Susan Hayes received the final confirmation in her hidden command center deep inside Mars. The alien fleet would arrive in exactly 15 days. They would expect to find a cowering planet full of defeated humans. Instead, they would find something that had never existed before in the galaxy's long history. A species that had spent their entire evolution learning to fight, to survive, and to win against impossible odds. "Send the activation codes," Susan ordered. Across the solar system, thousands of hidden systems came online. Mining platforms revealed their true nature as battleships. Civilian transports dropped their disguises and became assault carriers. Space stations that looked like research facilities suddenly bristled with weapons. The galaxy was about to learn the difference between controlling humans and facing them in battle. And that difference would change everything. War Marshal Thexani stood in the command center of his flagship, the Inevitable Victory. Through the massive windows, he could see 200 ships from 12 different alien species. It was the largest military force the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years. Thex quote Ani was not entirely organic. Half of his brain had been replaced with computers that could calculate battle outcomes with perfect accuracy. According to his calculations, this mission had a 99.97% chance of success. "The humans are primitive," he said to his officers. "They have no real weapons, no advanced technology, and no experience fighting in space. This will not be a battle. It will be a demonstration." His second in command, a tall creature with 6 arms, looked at the tactical display. Our intelligence shows they have been preparing agricultural equipment and civilian shelters. They are clearly ready to surrender. Good, Thexani replied. Perhaps we will not need to destroy any of their cities to make our point. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Immediately, sensors detected a single human ship approaching them. It was small, lightly armed, and broadcasting peaceful intentions. "This is Captain Ben Taylor of the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch, Q," came the message. "We request permission to conduct final negotiations before humanity's surrender." Thexani's computer brain analyzed the request. The ship was no threat. Its weapons could not damage even the smallest vessel in his fleet. Allowing the meeting would give him a chance to demonstrate the Council's power before accepting Earth's surrender. "Permission granted," he replied. "You may approach my flagship." Captain Ben Taylor was a calm man who had spent 20 years in Earth's space navy. As his small ship approached the massive alien fleet, he showed no signs of fear or excitement. His crew watched their instruments carefully, recording every detail about the alien ships. "They're not scanning us very carefully," reported his sensor operator, Lieutenant Kelly Davis. "Their technology is advanced, but they're overconfident." "Perfect," Ben replied. "That's exactly what we were hoping for." Ben's ship was not just a diplomatic vessel. Hidden inside its hull were sensors and communication equipment more advanced than anything the aliens had seen. While they thought they were meeting with a primitive human captain, Ben was actually gathering intelligence and coordinating with forces throughout the solar system. The Olive Branch docked with the inevitable Victory, and Ben was escorted to a massive meeting room. War Marshal Thexani waited for him there, along with representatives from all 12 council races. "Captain Taylor," Thexani said, his computer-enhanced voice echoing in the large room. "You may present your final surrender. Terms?" Ben opened a folder and began to read. "Earth offers complete technological cooperation with the Galactic Council. We will share all our scientific knowledge and allow Council scientists to study our civilization." The aliens nodded approvingly. They were always interested in new technology, even from primitive species. "We also offer voluntary participation in the genetic modification program," Ben continued. "Any humans who wish to become more peaceful may volunteer for the procedures." More nodding. This showed that the humans understood their violent nature and wanted to improve themselves. Finally, Ben said, "We request a gradual transition period of 50 years. This will allow us to slowly move our population to the agricultural worlds and prepare for our new role in galactic society." Thexani's computer brain processed the offer instantly. "Unacceptable," he said. "You have been given 30 days to surrender completely. You will comply immediately or face the consequences." Ben looked around the room at all the alien faces staring at him. Some looked curious, others looked hungry for power. All of them looked completely confident that they held all the cards in this negotiation. "I understand your position," Ben said calmly. "But surely you can see the benefit of allowing humanity to transition peacefully. A gradual surrender would cause less disruption and create fewer problems for the Council." The crystal being from Part 1 spoke in her musical voice. "You are in no position to negotiate. You will surrender now, or we will demonstrate what happens to species that resist the Council's will." Thexani moved to a control panel and began targeting Earth's largest city. "Watch your planet's surface, Captain Taylor. In 30 seconds, New York will be destroyed, then you will surrender." Ben looked at his watch, and then spoke into a small device on his collar. The word he said was barely a whisper, but it was heard by communication systems throughout the solar system. "Harvest." For a moment, nothing happened. The aliens began to smile, thinking the human was calling for help that would never come. Then space around the alien fleet began to change. Asteroids that had been floating peacefully in the outer system suddenly moved, revealing themselves to be massive warships. Mining platforms dropped their disguises and became weapon batteries. Civilian cargo ships shed fake hull plating to show the heavy armor and guns underneath. In the command center of the inevitable Victory, Alarm signals began screaming. Sensor. Operators tried to understand what they were seeing as thousands of human vessels appeared from nowhere. Impossible, Thexani said, his computer brain struggling to process the new information. Our intelligence showed no military buildup. Our spy ships detected only mining and agricultural activity. Admiral Susan Hayes appeared on every communication screen in the alien fleet. She was a stern woman with gray hair and cold eyes that had seen too many battles. I am Admiral Hayes of the Earth Defense Fleet, she said. You came here expecting to find a species ready to surrender. You were wrong. Behind her, the bridge of her flagship Defiance was a scene of controlled chaos. Officers worked at stations that glowed with displays showing the positions of every ship in both fleets. Let me explain something to you, Susan continued. You have spent 3,000 years conquering primitive species that could not fight back. You have never faced an enemy that wanted to hurt you as much as you wanted to hurt them. The alien fleet began to move into defensive positions, but their formations were designed for fighting other aliens who followed predictable patterns. They had no idea how to respond to human tactics. You made two mistakes, Susan said. First, you assumed we would be afraid of you. Second, you assumed we would fight fair. Captain Nicole Young led the first attack wave, commanding a squadron of ships that moved like nothing the aliens had ever seen. Her vessels twisted and spun through space, dodging alien weapons fire that could not track their wild movements. Remember your training, Nicole called to her pilots. They think in straight lines, we think in curves. The human ships attacked from angles that the alien computers had not been programmed to expect. They used pieces of destroyed asteroids as shields and weapons. They coordinated their movements in ways that seemed random, but were actually carefully planned. Chaos. War-Marshal Thexani watched his fleet being torn apart by enemies that should not have been able to fight at all. His computer brain calculated and recalculated, but the numbers made no sense. How are they doing this? He demanded of his officers. Their technology readings showed primitive fusion engines and basic weapon systems. The readings were false, reported his intelligence officer. Everything we detected was designed to mislead us. Their real technology operates on principles we do not understand. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Hayes watched the battle unfold exactly as the humans had planned. The aliens were brave and their individual ships were powerful, but they had no idea how to fight an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. Send a message to the Galactic Council, she ordered. Tell them that humanity accepts their terms on one condition: they leave us alone, or learn what happens when humans decide to stop hiding. The Battle of Sol lasted 4 hours. When it was over, half the alien fleet was destroyed and the other half was retreating in panic. Earth remained free, and the galaxy had learned that there were still surprises to be found among the stars. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of humanity had begun. The space around Earth looked like a graveyard of metal and fire. Pieces of alien ships drifted between the planets while human vessels moved through the wreckage like sharks hunting wounded prey. Colonel Danny Price pushed his fighter through a cloud of debris, chasing a fleeing alien scout ship. His small craft moved with impossible speed, turning and spinning in ways that should have torn it apart. Fox leader to all units, Danny called over his radio. The big ships are trying to retreat to hyperspace. Don't let them get away. Behind him, 50 more human fighters spread out like a deadly net. They had been designed to fight in ways that alien computers could not predict. Every pilot had trained for years to fly ships that responded to thought as much as to controls. The alien scout ship tried to escape by flying through an asteroid field, thinking the humans would not follow. Danny smiled and dove after it, his fighter dancing between rocks that would have crushed a normal spacecraft. You picked the wrong species to threaten, he muttered as his weapons locked onto the fleeing ship. Aboard the alien flagship Inevitable Victory, War Marshal Thexani struggled to understand what was happening to his fleet. His computer-enhanced brain processed information faster than any organic mind, but the data made no sense. Report, he demanded from his tactical officer. We have lost 47 ships, the officer replied, his voice shaking with fear. The human vessels appear to be equipped with some kind of phase technology. Our weapons pass through them without causing damage. That is impossible, Thexani said. Our sensors show their ships are made of primitive materials. Steel and aluminum cannot survive weapons that destroy molecular bonds. What Thexani did not understand was that human ships were not really made of steel and aluminum. Dr. Amy Rodriguez and her team had developed materials that looked primitive to alien sensors, but were actually based on principles the galaxy had never discovered. The outer hull of every human ship was indeed made of simple metals, but underneath lay layers of materials that existed partially outside normal space-time. When alien weapons hit them, the energy passed through into empty dimensions where it could do no harm. Captain Nicole Young received a priority message as she led her boarding teams toward a crippled alien cruiser. The enemy ship had been damaged by human weapons but was still trying to escape. "Nicole, this is Admiral Hayes," came the voice over her helmet radio. "We need prisoners and intelligence. Take that cruiser intact if you can." "Understood," Nicole replied. "Boarding Team Alpha, prepare for entry." Her assault ship approached the alien vessel through what looked like empty space. The aliens had not noticed the small ship because it was using the same phase technology as the larger vessels, making it nearly invisible to their sensors. Nicole and her team wore armor that looked simple, but contained technology the Galactic Council had never imagined. They could survive in vacuum, see through solid walls, and communicate instantly across vast distances. The airlock on the alien ship was designed to keep out normal boarding parties, but Nicole's team did not use the airlock. They simply walked through the hull as if it was not there, their phase-shifted armor allowing them to pass through solid matter. Inside the alien ship, they found corridors full of panicking crew members who had never experienced real combat. The aliens had spent so many centuries conquering helpless species that they had forgotten how to fight enemies who could fight back. "Secure the bridge," Nicole ordered her team. "And remember, we need some of them alive for questioning." Dr. Kevin Park watched the battle from his laboratory aboard the command station Hidden Truth. His job was not to fight, but to analyze alien technology in real time and find new ways to defeat it. "Their shield generators operate on harmonic frequencies," he reported to Admiral Hayes. "If we can match those frequencies, we can make their own shields work against them." Kevin had spent his entire career studying theoretical physics that other scientists thought was impossible. Now his theories were being proven in the most dramatic way possible. The universe had far more possibilities than the Galactic Council had ever imagined. "Transmitting shield frequency data to all ships," Kevin continued. "Try hitting them with pulse weapons tuned to Mark now." Across the battle zone, human weapons suddenly became far more effective. Alien shields that had protected their ships for thousands of years began failing as human guns turned their own defensive systems into weaknesses. War. Marshal Thexani felt something he had not experienced in his long military career: doubt. His computer brain was designed to calculate victory in any situation, but the numbers refused to make sense. "How many humans are there?" he asked his intelligence officer. "According to our files, their planet has about 8 billion inhabitants," came the reply. "And how many of them are military?" "Our estimates suggested no more than 50 million trained soldiers, with perhaps another 100 million in support roles." Thexani looked at the tactical display, which showed hundreds of human ships fighting with skill and coordination that suggested years of advanced training. "Then who is operating all these vessels?" he demanded. The truth was something that the Galactic Council had never understood about humanity. On Earth, war was not left to professional soldiers alone. When faced with extinction, every human became a warrior. Farmers and teachers, doctors and students, grandparents and teenagers, they all learned to fight because survival left no other choice. The crews of the human ships included people from every nation and every profession on Earth. They fought, not because it was their job, but because it was their world being threatened. Captain Michelle Rodriguez commanded a squadron of converted cargo ships that had been secretly modified for combat. Her crews included former airline pilots, truck drivers, and even video game players who had trained on combat simulators. "All units, form up on my position," she ordered. "We're going to try something the aliens won't expect." Her ships moved into a formation that looked random to alien sensors but was actually based on patterns from Earth's natural world. Like a school of fish or a flock of birds, they moved as one organism with hundreds of minds working together. The alien computers tried to predict where the formation would go next, but they could not understand movement based on instinct and intuition instead of mathematical formulas. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching her fleet tear apart an enemy that had thought they were invincible. Around her, officers from dozens of Earth nations worked together with perfect coordination. "Ma'am," called her communications officer, "we're receiving surrender requests from 12 alien ships." "Accept their surrenders," Hayes replied, "but keep our weapons locked on them. This is not over yet." She was right. In the outer system, more alien ships were arriving through hyperspace. The Galactic Council was sending reinforcements, determined to crush this unexpected resistance. But Susan Hayes had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. She had studied every alien species in the Council, learned their weaknesses, and planned for every possible scenario. "Send a message to Earth Command," she ordered. "Tell them to activate the second wave." Throughout the solar system, more hidden bases revealed themselves. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as research stations began firing. Space mines that looked like harmless satellites began tracking alien ships. The Galactic Council had thought they were facing a primitive species with crude weapons and simple tactics. Instead, they had found a civilization that had turned warfare into an art form, where every citizen was a soldier, and every tool could become a weapon. The aliens were about to learn the most important lesson in human history. Never back a human into a corner, because that is when they become most dangerous. The battle was far from over, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity would remain free, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Sol, and the galaxy looked very different. The crystal towers of Nexus Prime still reached toward the purple sky, but the beings inside them no longer called themselves rulers of the galaxy. Ambassador Tony Wright walked through the corridors that had once been restricted to the most powerful aliens in known space. Now he represented Earth at what was called the Galactic Assembly, a gathering of equals rather than subjects bowing to masters. Tony was a calm, patient man who had spent years learning alien languages and customs. He understood that winning the war had been only the beginning. Now came the harder task of building a peace that could last. "The Kepler Collective has requested human assistance," said his aide, Dr. Jennifer Ross, as they walked toward the main assembly hall. "They want help removing the control systems the old council placed on their worlds." Tony nodded. The Kepler Collective was a group of 7 species that had been forced to serve the Galactic Council for 800 years. After humanity's victory, they had declared independence, but they needed help removing the alien technology that had kept them enslaved. "Tell Captain Davis she can take the New Horizons to the Kepler system," Tony said. "But remind her this is a liberation mission, not a conquest. We're there to help, not to replace one set of masters with another." In the assembly hall, Tony took his seat among representatives from 43 different species. At the front of the room, Zethkar stood at the same podium where he had once declared humanity's fate. But now Zethkar was not a ruler. He was simply one voice among many, representing the Vorthak Empire's new democratic government. The change had been hard for his people, who had dominated the galaxy for 3,000 years. "The human proposal is unreasonable," Zethkar said, his forearms gesturing angrily. "They want to eliminate all military restrictions on developing species. This will lead to chaos and war throughout the galaxy." Tony stood to respond, his voice calm and steady. "Honorable Zethkar, the old system of restrictions was based on fear, not wisdom. Every species has the right to defend itself and determine its own future." A new voice joined the debate. It belonged to Captain Michelle Davis of the exploration ship New Horizons, speaking from the Kepler system through quantum communication. "I can report that the Kepler Collective has successfully removed the last of the control systems," Michelle said. "Their worlds are free for the first time in 8 centuries. There has been no violence, no chaos, and no threat to neighboring systems." Around the assembly hall, representatives from formerly oppressed species nodded approvingly. They had seen what freedom could accomplish when it was freely given rather than imposed by force. But not everyone was happy with the changes. In a dark corner of the hall, War Marshal Thexani sat with the other military representatives. Half of his computer-enhanced brain had been damaged in the Battle of Sol, leaving him more organic and more emotional than he had been in decades. "The humans have upset the natural order," he said quietly to the officer beside him. "Species were meant to know their place in the galaxy. Now everyone thinks they can be equal." His companion, a robot-like being with glowing red eyes, processed this statement. "Perhaps the natural order was wrong," it replied. "The humans have shown that cooperation works better than domination." Thexani had no answer for that. The evidence was clear in every star system where human advisors worked alongside alien governments to solve problems that had seemed impossible under the old council system. On a research station orbiting a distant star, Dr. Alan Foster worked with scientists from 12 different species to develop new technologies. The laboratory was a wonder of cooperation, where beings who had once been enemies now shared knowledge freely. "The quantum resonance theory is working," announced Dr. Veltar, a crystal being whose musical voice filled the lab with harmony. "Combined with human phase technology, we should be able to develop faster-than-light travel that uses no fuel at all." Alan smiled as he watched the data flowing across his screens. 6 months ago, this kind of cooperation would have been impossible. The old Galactic Council had kept species separated, afraid that sharing knowledge would make them harder to control. Now, with barriers removed, the galaxy was advancing faster than ever before. New discoveries happened every day as different species learned from each other's unique perspectives and methods. "Dr. Foster," called his assistant, a young woman named Lisa Chang who had volunteered for the deep space assignment. "We're getting a priority message from Earth." Alan activated the communication system and saw the face of President Martinez appearing on the main screen. Behind the president, Alan could see the flags of every nation on Earth, still united despite their victory. "Alan," the president said, "I have good news and challenging news. The good news is that 17 more species have requested to join our alliance for mutual protection and cooperation." "And the challenging news?" Alan asked. "We've detected signals from beyond the edge of our galaxy. It looks like there are other civilizations out there, possibly even more advanced than the old Galactic Council." Alan felt a familiar thrill of excitement and fear. Humanity had proven they could defend themselves against known threats, but the universe was vast and full of surprises. "What are your orders, Mr. President?" "Build us the fastest, most advanced ships you can," Martinez replied. "We're going to explore beyond the Milky Way, but this time we're not going alone. Any species that wants to join the expedition will be welcome." On Earth, Commander Steve Rogers oversaw the construction of humanity's newest and most ambitious project. The ship taking shape in the orbital shipyards above Mars was larger than any vessel ever built, designed to carry representatives from dozens of species on a journey that would take them farther from home than anyone had ever traveled. The ship was called Hope's Edge, and it represented everything humanity had learned about cooperation and exploration. Its hull was built using techniques shared by 6 different species. Its engines were powered by energy sources discovered through joint research projects. Its crew would include volunteers from across the galaxy. Steve had been chosen to command the mission not because he was the best human officer, but because he had proven he could work with anyone, no matter how strange or different they might seem. "How long until we're ready to launch?" asked his second-in-command, Captain Ruth Martinez. 6 more months, Steve replied, watching robotic workers install the ship's final systems. "Long enough to make sure we have everything we need for a journey we might not return from." Ruth looked at the data pad showing the crew roster. Humans, Vorthax, crystal beings, robot intelligences, and species that had no names in human languages. They would travel together into the unknown, united by curiosity and the hope of discovery. "Do you think we'll find more enemies out there?" she asked. Steve considered the question carefully. "Maybe," he said finally. "But if we do, they'll find something they don't expect. They'll find species working together instead of fighting each other. They'll find civilizations that choose cooperation over conquest. And if that's not enough..." Steve smiled, remembering the lessons of the Battle of Sol. Then they'll learn the same lesson the Galactic Council learned. Never underestimate the power of beings who refuse to give up their freedom. As the ship took shape in the darkness of space, messages were being transmitted to every corner of the galaxy. The call was simple. Join us in exploring the unknown, or stay behind and help. Build a better future for the worlds we already know. Either choice was acceptable, because that was what freedom meant. The right to choose your own path, make your own mistakes, and determine your own destiny. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson in the universe. Cooperation was stronger than conquest, and diversity was more powerful than uniformity. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, new adventures waited for species brave enough to seek them together. The age of human dominance had never begun, because humans had never wanted to dominate. Instead, they had started something far more dangerous to tyrants everywhere. The age of universal freedom. The Galactic Council had decided to control mankind. Instead, they had discovered that some species could not be controlled, only invited, to join something greater than themselves. The invitation was now open to the entire universe.